All right, today we are jumping into a real clash of titans. How Rome managed to conquer Greece. Now, this wasn't just another war. It was a collision of two worlds that would literally shape the future of Western civilization. So let's break down how a single, up-and-coming republic brought the heirs of a massive empire to their knees.
So I want you to picture the Mediterranean around the 3rd century BC. Over in the east, you've got these huge, sophisticated Hellenistic kingdoms. We're talking Macedon, the Seleucids, Ptolemaic Egypt, all of them the glittering, powerful legacy of Alexander the Great. And then, way over in the west, you've got Rome. It's tough, it's ambitious, for sure, but it's still mostly just a regional power on the Italian peninsula. The stage was absolutely set for a major showdown.
And this, right here, gets to the very core of the conflict. In the east, you have this incredible cultural power, but it's all split up between these kingdoms that are constantly fighting each other. Rome, on the other hand, is one unified, incredibly organized military machine. So really, the question wasn't if they were going to clash, but how in the world this scrappy rising power could possibly come out on top.
Okay, so our story really kicks off around 231 BC. The Mediterranean is basically a powder keg of nonstop warfare, and Rome's sphere of influence is about to slam head-on into the Greek world.
You know, you might think Rome's first big move into the Greek world was some grand, planned-out invasion, but actually it wasn't. It was sparked by a much more annoying problem that was buzzing around the Adriatic Sea.
The problem? Pirates. Simple as that. Roman merchants were losing money hand over fist, and they were screaming at the Senate to do something about these Illyrian pirates who were led by a formidable queen named Tuta. So Rome sent diplomats. But when their demands were blown off and one of their envoys was actually killed, the Senate's response was, well, let's just say it was swift and incredibly brutal.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. After this first war, Rome doesn't just plant a flag and annex the place. Nope. They established what they called amicitia, which means friendship. But as you're about to see, this was a very Roman kind of friendship, and it came with some serious strings attached.
This amicitia idea was a cornerstone of Rome's whole foreign policy playbook. They weren't just conquering places, they were building a network of dependence. It basically meant, sure, we're friends, but that friendship depends entirely on you doing what's best for Rome. This was the first absolutely crucial domino to fall in their expansion into the Greek world. Okay, so with a solid foothold now secure, Rome started to set its sights on the really big players. And their first major target was the powerful kingdom of Macedon and its very ambitious king, Philip V.
This whole conflict was also a clash of military philosophies. I mean, the Macedonian phalanx was this terrifying wall of pikes, like a human steamroller on open ground. Unstoppable, right? Well, the Roman legion, with its smaller, way more flexible units, could fight effectively on pretty much any terrain. And that adaptability, that was going to be the key to everything.
So what kicked off the war? Philip made a huge mistake. He allied himself with Hannibal, Rome's #1 arch-enemy. As soon as Rome was done dealing with Hannibal, they turned their full, undivided attention to Macedon. And their commander, a guy named Flamininus, was an absolute master of propaganda. He didn't frame this as a conquest. Oh no. He framed it as a noble liberation, promising freedom for all the Greek city-states from the boot of Macedonian rule.
The big showdown came at the Battle of Cynocephaly, and it was fought on this series of bumpy, broken ridges, the perfect terrain for the Romans. The rigid Macedonian phalanx just couldn't keep its formation, and the Roman legions poured right into the gaps, causing a total collapse. It was an absolute disaster for Macedon. We're talking 8,000 of their soldiers killed.
So with Macedon humbled, the next great domino was the massive Seleucid Empire. After the Battle of Magnesia, where Rome crushed Antiochus the Great, there was just no doubt left in anyone's mind who was in charge. Rome was now the final authority, the undisputed power broker in the entire Eastern Mediterranean.
So, 2 of the 3 great Hellenistic kingdoms were now either broken or neutralized. Rome's path forward was crystal clear. They then began to systematically and brutally dismantle what was left of Greek independence.
After crushing Perseus, the very last king of Macedon, at the Battle of Pydna, Rome's whole attitude shifted. It wasn't enough to just defeat their enemies anymore. Now the goal was to completely erase them from the map. The full, terrifying force of their divide-and-conquer strategy was about to be unleashed.
Rome's solution for Macedon was just
It was both brilliant and utterly ruthless. They didn't just conquer it, they took it apart, piece by piece. By shattering the kingdom into 4 separate little republics, and then forbidding any kind of trade or cooperation between them, they made absolutely sure that Macedon would never, ever be a threat again.
The few Greek city-states that were left, they saw the writing on the wall, and they made one last desperate stand. The Roman response was just unforgiving. To send a message, a clear, brutal message that would echo across the entire Mediterranean, the legions completely razed the ancient, wealthy city of Corinth to the ground. They killed the men and sold every last woman and child into slavery.
So there you have it. After 80 years of escalating conflict, from a small-scale action against pirates all the way to the total annihilation of a great city, the Greek world was now completely under Roman control. But, and this is a huge but, the story of this conquest has one final, absolutely fascinating twist.
This was the secret sauce. This was the heart of Rome's whole strategy. Divide et impera. Divide and rule. They were absolute masters at playing the Greek states against each other, offering alliances and that famous friendship to one state to help them crush another, until eventually there was no one left standing to challenge them. And here we land on the ultimate irony of this entire story. Rome's legions, its military might, absolutely conquered Greece, but it was Greek culture, its art, its philosophy, its science, that would turn around and conquer Rome. The Romans won the war, for sure, but it was Greek civilization that would go on to shape the entire course of the West. So you have to ask yourself, in the long run, who really won?